My name is Christian Quintero. I am a second year PhD student here at UNT. I'm in the Department of Kinesiology, Health Promotion, and Recreation, and my degree is in Human Performance and Movement Science.
So first question is, so what sparked you into choosing the research that you're doing now?
So a little bit of my own anecdotal story. I think I was a dancer, right, and I also had my own personal struggles with disordered eating, body image, and things like that. So that's kind of what sparked me to s- dive into the research on disability and gender and how those intersect in sport. So looking at a lot of like emotional behavioral disabilities and also just in the masculinity side of things.
Okay, awesome. So what does a typical day for you look like, especially when you're like doing your research?
Well, right now it looks a lot like sitting at a desk, um, but gears are always turning
Yeah.
for me personally, and I'm just finishing up my coursework, so finishing up my second year of coursework, and also just getting all my graduate assistant job duties
Yeah.
done, working on projects, updating data, sometimes cleaning it, writing different analyses or writing up results for things, um, or sometimes recruitment.
Oh
And I'm
wow.
also working on, sometimes I work on my new upcoming projects. So kind of like slowly but surely working on IRBs, things like that to kind of like keep the momentum going, I guess.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that is awesome. So how do you feel about the current findings that you've had while you're doing your research, or like something interesting that you're like, oh wow, I didn't know this.
I think so. A current project I'm working on in actually in bodybuilders is surprisingly we had a self-identification for disability in the survey, and roughly, right, we haven't cleaned the data up yet, but roughly about 9% of the total population of bodybuilders that we have identified with a disability,
Oh wow.
which is I think that's a really cool, like, I mean, that's almost 10%.
Yeah.
And that means that there are disabled bodybuilders out there that their experiences and their challenges and their the process of how they go through participating in sport has yet to be explored.
Yeah, that is awesome to
Hmm.
know. Wow. It's really interesting. 10%, huh? Yeah.
Hmm.
And how did like that data come to be? How did you like manage to get all that? Is it just like questionnaire, like surveys and
For
stuff?
this project, yeah, it was mostly just a questionnaire. It was a survey we put out, and we tried to get it out to as many people as we can. Right now, we're about 400
Oh, fine,
that
okay.
have completed the survey, so that's really cool.
Yeah,
Um, and I mean, so 10% of 400 is it's like 40 of them,
yeah,
and so I was like, okay, that's cool because I feel like most people, when they think about aesthetic sports, because the aesthetic is such an important like
yeah,
aspect to it, and looking a certain way and kind of giving off this presentation of maybe not perfection but as close to perfection as possible, a lot of individuals don't associate that with disability.
yeah,
And so it's actually really neat to see that there are individuals with disability who have these experiences, are still doing that, and they're still participating in a sport where a lot of people don't associate that with,
yeah,
like I said, with disability, especially when in conjunction with masculinity.
yeah.
So,
Very interesting stuff.
hmm
Wow. So, why is the research you're doing important?
so that that's always been something that for me for a while I've always thought that emotional behavioral disability in male aesthetic athletes was important, and I think that the times are catching up with me now
Yeah,
because I've started to see like things like in Gen Pop media, like BuzzFeed, and all these like actors who are coming out and talking about their experiences with either disordered eating or body image issues when they were auditioning for roles and things like these actors that you wouldn't think would have had any kind of like body image issue. They are starting to be more open about it, and so I think that's really cool. BuzzFeed did an article a couple months back about how adolescent men or adolescent boys are struggling with muscle dysmorphia, and so like that can also have its disordered eating issues. It can come with other psychological issues, and I think it's cool that there's finally a spotlight on the issue,
Yeah.
and I think that that kind of like lends itself to my area of research.
No, that's awesome. Yeah. So, what do you hope to find at the end of the research? Like, is there a question you want to answer for yourself, or is there like just a like something that you know you want to like answer?
That's a great question. I don't know that there's, I guess, I don't know that there's a finish line per se, but I do know that as of right now, which I think I'm starting to see a little bit of as I'm starting to get my research off the ground, is first of all seeing that it's there,
Yeah.
that there are male athletes, or there is a intersection between disability and masculinity, perhaps in masculine concepts, not necessarily specific to males, but that there is a connection there, and that exists, and so that experience needs to be explored and looked at, and um, perhaps challenged, and maybe even perhaps there are ways we can provide resources and support for individuals who might be struggling or what be it, right? But kind of, I think I'm looking for more to find,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's not a finish line, but just to make sure that what you're researching goes out there, it's known.
Yeah.
That with the research that you're doing at the moment, um, it will like evolve to this bigger thing to solve like a real issue in our world.
Yes, I think that, and that's why I say I think that for a long time, and if you look at some of the literature and some of the past literature, especially with disordered eating and body image, it's presumed to be this feminine, female issue, right? And so that's a very common theme throughout the literature, and it was just kind of assumed that men didn't go through that, right? Because they're but however, there are different ways to kind of like look at body image, and for a lot of or for men or masculine presenting people, like muscularity is an issue for them. So muscle dysmorphia is a recent addition that I've started to see in the literature, and I think that that's one stepping stone to catching up. I do think that it's person specific. I don't think that there is this solid breakdown between a binary gender, anyways. And so I do think that being able to explore these concepts with a wider frame of mind when it comes to just disability and gender, I think that will allow us to really be able to understand perhaps some issues or challenges that people experience every day, but they don't necessarily associate with, or it's not always been associated with because there was always that hard cutoff between a binary gender
Yeah.
and what was associated with those genders.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I guess we'll shift a little bit away from the research questions
Okay.
and ask a little more about you, getting to
Okay.
know you a little more.
Okay.
So what is something that you do to like motivate you into like be like, oh, this is why I'm doing my research for?
I think so. I think that, well, learning has always been a core value for me. And so my curiosity is kind of always active. It's something that is just always ongoing, and I think about things a lot. And so I think that just kind of knowing that there's stuff to find out,
Yeah.
things that need to be done or pursued, perhaps, when it comes to my research, I think that's just what keeps me going.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's one of those things where it's like, I just do it. I just got to do it. Like, there's no question about it. It's not, for me, it's not the same as like, oh, I gotta motivate myself to go exercise or whatever. It's just kind of like one of those things that I think it's a habitual thing. So I just kind of like, I just get up and I go about my day and I do what I gotta do.
That is awesome though.
Yeah.
So what's the most interesting part from your research that you think it's like if you told someone's like, wow, this is pretty cool?
I think one of the most interesting parts of my research, especially when I get to, not necessarily through my via my research, but via the social connections I build with research,
Yeah.
getting to hear experiences from athletes, and this typically is with athletes who are not competing anymore. They've finished their kind of competition phase of life.
Yeah.
They are much more cognizant and acknowledging of some of the disabilities that they endured or they have or they still struggle with, and seeing that they have acknowledged that's really an issue there, that exists, um, but also it's just seeing that it's just part of the experience, whereas a lot of the times, like, there's typically this like resistance to disability sometimes, or even like with the label of disability, right?
Yeah.
But it's much more prevalent than we like to imagine. um, Lots of people have a disability that they struggle with. When it comes to disabilities you can't quite see, I think that it's important to highlight some of those experiences and those struggles, so being able to see that they have come around and acknowledge some of the disability that they might have struggled with,
Yeah.
but also they care enough to try to help some of the new upcoming athletes with some of those disabilities.
No, that is awesome. Yeah. So, what's something that you enjoy doing, or like it's like your favorite thing to do whenever you're like at home or just not like thinking about your research, like just things you do on your free time, I guess you could say.
Okay. Honestly, I like to play video games.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the best ways for me to kind of decompress and step away from all the thinking.
Yeah.
uh, like I said, the thinking is kind of like ongoing a lot
It's
of the
constant.
times.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very constant. And so sometimes that's a little exhausting. So for me, I think playing video games is just one way where I can do it with friends. I can still be social with them and hang out with them, and we can play together and all the
Yeah.
things. But it's a way to kind of step away from all of the thinking of work and academia and research and all the things I got to do, and just kind of decompress and let myself mentally rest.
Yeah. That is awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's gonna conclude our interview for today.
Okay.
Thank you so much for talking to me and um, for us, everybody watching, learning a little more about what you do and like.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.